these are the winners, y'all. These are who are going to see pitching. Steve Blame, Garrett Vanderleen, Yolanda T. Ross, and Crystal Harris. Yes, you're all brilliant. Thank you so much. If I did not pronounce your name right, I am very sorry. It's going to happen. And now, if I can quickly also give a shout out to the finalists. There you go. So here we go, you guys. This was really tough. So everybody is a winner. The finalists are Sophia Costanzo, Michael Klug, Daniel Shar, Kai Gang, Tang, Damian Wampler, Ariane Hahuso, Joey Kent, Christine Freshy, Tanya Van, Katie Cronin, Brandon Krajewski. And because there were so many, we also gave honorable mentions to Adrian Thorne, Kyle Wilson, Wendy Jean Wilkins, Shaquille William, Norm Fassbender, Motown Maurice, Corey Wright. Thank you for sending in your pitches. Congratulations to everybody. We are going to first hear from Steve Blame.
Yes, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. No, it's not. It's 20
my
past
goodness.
4.
Dedication.
I remember the days when I used to come home at 20 past 4 in the morning now. That was a long time before COVID.
Wow. Well, welcome, Steve. This is great.
Thank you.
So what, are we just going to dive in, Molly, and just have Steve
go for it.
All right, let's go for it, Steve.
Have fun.
Well, hi, everyone. I just want to reference something that Felicity said. So I am a liar. And actually, I'm a really good liar, because when I was a teenager, I used to lie to my school friends, to my parents, and to my teachers about my sexuality. And in reference to that, if we look at members of the LGBT community, and in wartime, they had to be good liars, because if they weren't good liars, they end up in prison. And often they led second lives. And because they led second lives, they actually made the best spies. And this is why I wrote Major Hacker's War, because during the Second World War, the Allies found out that the leader of the SS in the northeastern section of France, who was killing off resistance members from information from a mole, was gay. So they set up World War II's first gay spy unit. And the idea was, the mission was that they went to France, they infiltrated the lair of SS Leinenbach, and then they eliminated the mole. Now, they were led by a closet case, Major Mike Hacker. And when they get to France, SS Leinenbach takes a liking to Mike. So Mike's now in this terrible situation where he's not only, in a war zone, he's also dealing with his sexuality, at the same time having to stay in with SS Leinenbach and find out the identity of the mole. And this all happens as the resistance, the locals and the Nazis are closing in on the unit. So Major Hacker's War is a bit like The Imitation Game meets Inglourious Basterds, and it's proof that gay men and women make the best spies.
Love it. Nice work, Steve. That's a true story. Is this based on a true event?
It's based on lives of spies. And also someone I met in Cologne, I met the head of a Jewish organization here, and he told me the story of two guys, one who was Jewish and one who was in the Wehrmacht, which was like the normal German army, not the SS. And they met in a park, and over a sexual act, one discovered that the other one was Jewish, and they fell in love, and the guy in the Wehrmacht saved the Jewish guy. They found each other after the war and lived together their whole lives, but never came out.
Amazing.
And in their 80s, they both died. And wow. I just was so inspired by this story and other stories that I've read that I thought if I put it all together, and also about the stories of so many gay and lesbians were spies, and put them all together, then I've got a bigger story. So it's based on true stories, but it isn't in itself a true story.
Great. So who wants to start? We just dive in. We'll start with what's working first, and then maybe anything on top of that.
I'll go first. I well, obviously you're from the old country, so I understood every word you said. I thought that was a really great pitch. I really enjoyed it. It was very clear. You took your time. I like the fact that you started with something, so you told me a bit about you. I wouldn't mind a bit more about you, if I'm honest, but you said I'm a liar, and I think that was a kind of like, it's like, oh, you're a liar. That's an interesting opening. But then to really slow down when you told me the name of the piece, which I really liked, so I could hear it, because sometimes, especially when you're nervous, you can kind of gabble over the name of the piece and you really want us to hear it. And then I think it was really great that you went into the mission, so that was like the body of what was going to happen in the film. It felt a tiny bit, if I'm being really, really picky, a tiny bit confusing, kind of remembering who was who, because we just got to know their names. But other than that, I just thought you did a really great job. And I feel like it's such a great story. And I think the other thing is I want a tiny bit at the end, maybe my final, just a little idea about why you think it's important now, as you know, socially for us, or what, you know, what the message is that you would love to kind of get across with this movie, so that we know how we should feel when we watch it.
Great.
Okay.
Brittany.
I think maybe I can just say here, sorry, could I just butt in?
Yep.
That maybe I can say here that I think gay people haven't been represented as fighters in wartime. They've been represented in different ways, and maybe like in the Imitation Game, where we have someone in the background doing something incredibly important, and you see the value of that person. But gay people have never been presented as actual people in war zones fighting. And I think that's, or very, very rarely. And I think that's such an important facet. And that's another thing that really interested me.
Great.
Yeah, I would like that part. I liked that part a lot, because I found it fascinating that their homosexuality was used as, or that quality coincides with the ability to keep secrets, to kind of live that double life, be actors. And yeah, so I found it really fascinating. I've never heard about this or like heard that connection before. And I think, going to Felicity's point about having trouble following the characters in the body of that, maybe being more specific about the characters, or simplifying something where we can kind of like a chess piece move along with this person, the main guy. That's my note.
Great. Jethro.
This is a crystal clear pitch. There's a lot right here. You did that hook from the beginning with, you know, that you're a liar. It gives us just a hint about you, and then it broadens it and it makes us ask, well, what are you a liar about? And it's, so this was like textbook example of a good, clear, concise pitching from my standpoint.
Thank you.
The project itself, I haven't seen a project like it, and I think it absolutely should get made. And I think there may be challenges just as far as setting up a period piece, and you know, in this, there may be challenges from a production standpoint, but from a pitch standpoint, I think you nailed it.
Yeah. I would just add, Steve, that make sure that you're stating, so I have this feature idea, or I'm seeing this as a TV series. I assumed it was a movie, and I think you may have mentioned it, but I was still trying to figure out, you know, some of the details of everything, which I was able to follow. But like Jethro was saying, from a marketability standpoint, it is difficult to make period pieces because of just budget. I think stretching it out from a TV series approach is an interesting idea. A lot more is happening in the small screen anyway. It seems like there are probably going to be enough story in all of that to be able to allow for multiple seasons, or at least an event series. Anyway, that was my only thought. What I loved, that it felt like this was something you could tell to me in a bar or in a restaurant or a party, and I'd be like, I know what that is. That's awesome. And that's really the whole point of a 90-second short pitch. So bravo. Really well done. Yeah.
Well done. Very good.
Really nice job, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Check out the comment section, because you got a lot of love.
All right.
And I will say, Steve, that for it being 4 a.m. where you are extremely with it and mentally capable right now.
I don't feel with it, but thanks.
And Garrett's is actually going to be a video pitch. So we're going to have him come and say hello, and then Sheena's going to play the video for you all. Hey, Garrett.
Hello.
Hi, Garrett. It looks like it's light out where you are. Where are you?
I am hiding in the corner of a room at work right now. I'm hoping that nobody finds me and asking me to report, but I'm in somebody's back. Yeah, there's a backyard back here. Still light in LA.
Oh, you're in LA. Got it. Okay. All right. Okay, so Shayna, are we bringing Shayna on and she's going to show the video? But why don't you just introduce yourself a little, Garrett, and then kind of get us, intro to the video itself.
Sure. My name is Gerrit van der Loon. I moved to Los Angeles around 2002 or 3. I worked at Disneyland in the costumes for my first job down here. And I have worked as a nanny almost exclusively since. That's where I'm at right now on a nanny job. They're older. Nobody's in danger right now. And the project I've got for you tonight is something that was born out of a lot of stuff that's going on just over the course of its revisions, something that's born out of the news cycle today, and something that just kind of came from my childhood. And I think that's where a lot of my work tends to collide, is the stuff I fell in love with as a kid and the stories I feel like I need to tell as an adult. So that's what I got here, Lady Rebecca.
Lady Rebecca, is it a feature or TV series?
I feel like I'm cheating with this video, but I do kind of give it up in the pitch that I know I'm behind the scenes right now a little bit. It's developed as both a series and a feature. I have scripts for both and ideas for how the story either closes as a feature or has an open-ended nature and continues to reinvent itself as a series.
Cool.
My name is Gerrit van der Loon, and the project I'd like to pitch to you today is called Lady Rebecca. Lady Rebecca is the story of a young, wily, and capable queen who, on the day of her coronation, falls victim to a deadly invasion. And in order to save her magical kingdom, she has to first ask for help from all the indigenous magical races it was first stolen from. On its surface, Lady Rebecca is a retro, throwback, action-adventure fantasy extravaganza. It's got shades of evergreen titles like Princess Bride and Willow, and the nuanced character work of something like Game of Thrones. It's character-driven, it's female-driven, and under its surface, it does explore subjects of inclusivity and indigenous rights. And I know that may seem a little pandering, but I want you to know I walk what I talk. My wife is a first-generation Argentine-American. We've made a documentary on her namesake. We have family in Cuba and Venezuela. I've broken bread with revolutionaries. And this story is not just important to me as it explores the fantasy and magical stuff I fell in love with as a child, but is also representative of who I want to be as an adult. I want to be a voice for change, and I hope with your help we can push it in that direction. As it stands now, I have it finished as both a pilot script and a feature script. On top of all that, it also lends itself well to both animation and live action. You could go either way. By looking at the concept art I've put together here, you can see the many varied possibilities of the casting, of the age ranges, and of the magical creatures and races that have never before seen on film. I hope we get a chance to talk about this more, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. Peace.
All right, cool. Thanks, Garrett. So why don't you give a little bit of the story up front, because the volume was down a little bit there. So give us a little bit of the story itself for Lady Rebecca, just so that we can kind of dive in there. Yeah.
Sure. The story is about a wily young queen whose kingdom is overcome by this invasion. And it's about a wily young queen who's dead set on running magic out of her land. And on this very same day, an invasion comes across her kingdom. And in order to save it, she has to ask for help from all the indigenous magical races her land was originally stolen from.
Okay. All right. So let's get started. Anybody wants to dive in?
I think your presentation was great. It's succinct, like we get what the obstacles are. I just formatting, like maybe it's personal preference and how I've seen things done, is putting a little bit about you first. Mm-hmm. So that it informs my head when I'm hearing your story.
I think the thing that is most interesting about this is you, and there was not enough of you in this, I think. You do talk about your history and that kind of stuff like that. I think it's that your passion for this project and why you think you can write a female story and the story you want to tell from a man's perspective, but through a female lens. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's something about that is, but you know, it seems to me that you, I don't know if I felt like you were madly in love with your wife. You know, that is gorgeous. You know what I mean? I want to have that lovely feeling of that kind of, you know, respect for women and this love for telling a story that you think needs to be told. And the fact that it has this tie back to the fact that we're all pretty much living on stolen land. I mean, as a British person, I really have no stones to throw. You know, we just went and put a flag and everything and said, mine now, you know, literally. So I think that this is the right time for it. And I think that really kind of explaining the kind of getting back to Mother Earth, and that's the reason why you're kind of coming from this very strong female character, and why you are the person to tell that story. Just a bit more of that. And I think the other thing is, like, if technical difficulties do happen, which might happen if you are doing a Zoom pitch like this, be prepared to kind of go, like, you know, say, well, that was a bit quiet, but let me just praise it or summarize it for you. Or the things I really want you to take out of this moment are this and this and this. That's what's really important. You saw some of the images there, but this is what I'm feeling about it. So don't, you know, again, humanity, things go wrong. It's okay. As long as we don't pretend that was the best thing it could have been. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Because otherwise, you know, oh, that was perfect. I love to have it that low. I always like it so we have to really lean in, you know what I mean? I told once that being quiet makes you listen more. So I'm doing that. So I think that's, you know, own it.
Yeah.
But honestly, great job. I think it sounds like an amazing story.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Jethro?
Felicity had some good points as far as putting yourself in there. I really enjoyed the part learning about your wife and her background as well. I gotta say that I couldn't I was trying to wrap my head around because it's such a visually specific story I think you're trying to tell, and I think that you do need some kind of visuals, but with those visuals, I still, to this moment, can't quite picture it. I can't see the world. I've got Willow in there, and it's just a lot of disparate things that I'm having trouble putting my mind around. So I think that might mean you might lose some folks on the, because it is so unique visually that may not be the best visual representation for you.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you at what point in that pitch process, or when you were pitching, when do those visuals come into play? Because I do have an illustration background. I do have materials for this, but I don't know when in a pitch. Are you leading with those visual materials? Are you showing them during a talk? I guess everything's in this box right now, so there is an ability to put it on the screen.
And I would, you know, especially in a forum like this, I would definitely make it not you pre-recorded, but you real time. And then if you want to enhance it with, you know, at this moment, you know, if you had just given the pitch, just you, and then you're like, oh, well, I've got some visuals here, let me share my screen, that kind of thing, I think might help. Okay. That way you answer the question about visuals, having it pre-prepared, but not putting it out there front and center necessarily.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone's saying. I'm a huge fan of fantasy, big fan. Grew up in Lord of the Rings. I wrote a young adult fantasy novel myself, and so I'm a huge fan of fantasy. And all those images that you put up there for those comps, I love all those movies, like so much that we might love them too much. Meaning people have a specific feeling about Princess Bride. People have a specific feeling about Willow. And then when throwing Game of Thrones in there, I didn't know if it was a comedy or if it was a heavy drama or if it was this really serious, scary type of, you know, project. And when hearing about the story, I'm like, okay, cool. I know what the goal is. And I love that we have all these indigenous people. I see the conflict and the irony in the story. I want to know a little bit more about the Queen, what she's going to experience alongside these indigenous peoples. And through that experience, you're going to be able to relay what that genre is. Like, is it a goofy, wild, Shrek-like adventure, or is it going to be something really serious like Game of Thrones? I mean, Game of Thrones and Princess Bride, like opposite ends of the spectrum when fantasy is concerned. So I think you did a great job, and I agree, especially that comparing your wife to the queen and allowing you then to have a way to, like Felicity was saying, be a man telling a woman's story. Now you have a direct link as to how you can do that. Yeah, so hopefully that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Cool. All right, thanks, Garrett, and hopefully the kids are still safe behind you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Garrett.
So thank you guys for being here. And the name of my pilot is We Are Here. And We Are Here is a 1-hour limited drama series about Charlotte King, a formidable, passionate human rights attorney who returns home after 20 years to face the man that she believes murdered her sister 20 years ago. Now, what is unique about this show is that it has a running teaser from 1819 through the year of 2017, a year after Trump was elected. And the man that Charlotte would have to face is Dan Wise, who is a formidable and prestige judge who is running a very horrible human trafficking business from the same plantation that we see running in the teaser. And at the same time, Dan Wise is trying to set up his Black son-in-law, the only investment professional, successful banker in his small city for the young girls that are coming up missing. Now, what made me want to write this story is the fact that I was scrolling through Facebook and watching the news, and I was seeing all these stories about how, you know, Black men down Black women. There's a war that's happening between African American men and women, as well as the war that is happening on African Americans. And also there are these women that have been coming up missing in DC for a long time, Black women that nobody seems to be caring about or shining a light on. And a lot of the times with Black women, whenever, you know, something happens with us, or, you know, there's something that is going on, we're never considered. So I wanted to write a story that shined the light on that Cold War that's happening within our own community, and to start a healing with that, but to also, you know, shine a light on the impacts of what happened from slavery to today, to look at the human trafficking that happened in the slavery period that still is going on in the modern day period today. And I believe that a show like this, because I've never quite seen it this way, there are no slave stories that really look at how they impact us in 2020, you know, versus from when it happened back in the day. So that is my passion behind wanting to do a project like this, so that we can start conversation and healing and fostering, you know, unity within our community and within the world. Because I think, you know, the best way for us to understand each other is to visit the past and look at what happens in the present.
That's great. Thank you, Yolanda. That's great. All right, who would like to start?
I'll start again. I love your passion, Yolanda. I love the story. Well, I love the, I say posit the story because I don't really wasn't clear on why Charla must face Dan now. Like what the catalyst is for her having to face this situation, not just keep ignoring it, like, or keep pushing it down.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I left that part out. You know how it is, a little bit of nerves get to running.
I totally understand, yeah.
So Charlotte is facing Dan because she believes that Dan is the man that murdered her sister 20 years ago.
Okay.
So she left home because she felt like she let her sister down, because she had actually seen her sister get kidnapped that day. And she saw Dan right there at the scene when it happened. And he actually had her, you know, put in an institution because she was accusing him of the reason why her sister was kidnapped and murdered.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like there's, what I get more than anything, and I remember this from the pitch as well, and Brittany said it too, is just your passion for the story. And honestly, that is so infectious and so relevant and makes it important. So don't lose that. However, you also have a megawatt smile. mean, like, Richard, when you smile, your face just like lights up. It's just like, you look amazing. So I know we're talking about a serious thing, but when you say who I am, start with you, you know? I am Yolanda Ross, and I'm here to tell you about my story. Like, you know, say your name, give the killer smile, say I am your best friend, and you cannot wait to hear my story. And then I would really just say that, you know, it seems to me that healing and community and starting a conversation is the thing that you want most out of this, and start with that. I want to open up this conversation. It burns in my heart that we need to talk to each other and find a way to have the awkward conversations that we're ignoring right now. So I came up with this idea, and this is a passion project of mine. I wanted to show how history repeats itself, which is why I have the element of slavery to kind of the modern day. And then can I tell you, and I loved, the thing I really loved, and I think that, I can't remember the British guy, I've forgotten his name already, sorry, things go in one ear and out the other with me, I'm afraid, but you gave them a lovely description. So Dan Wise, you know, I knew, I could picture him. You were like, he was mean and kind of tight, you know, and then there was Charlotte, this striking, you know, I can't even remember, but I remember hearing, and those words, when you're talking about the characters, give us images in our head, which we start to picture them. And then when you talk about what they're doing, I'm looking at that, my image of that person doing this work. So that was great. I really love that. And I think the other last point, and I won't go on, is I think that this story of African-American women going missing is disgusting and appalling, and still happening, and no one cares.
No one cares.
Yeah, like how on earth can we get people to start caring about it? And the only way to see it.
I'm sorry, Felicity. I was just going to say, to your point, if you Google that right now today, none of those women have been found. None of them. And there's more that have come up missing, including, you know, young boys, and not just African American, you know, other races as well. But I'm just saying that specifically when it comes down to Black women, we are at the bottom of the totem pole. And if you did an essay or you did a survey, that's what they would say. And I think the more lenses that we can have on these types of stories, the more we can get the message out, because even people like Issa Rae and Lena Waitham are starting to shine a light on that and storylines and the stories that they're telling as well. But if we could see how it started and why it still continues today, it will definitely help people to understand, because there are a lot of people like, you know, well, how can I help? How can I, you know, understand, you know, your journey, or is there anything that I can do to help shine a light? And stories like this help, because people watch TV and they watch the news and they see what's going on. And we see a lot of that, what's happening today, even on the news, even with like George Floyd and people like that. We see it, you know, so it's relevant to understand why these things are happening. And it's not to visit slavery, but to look at it from an educational lens, but to do it entertainingly, where people are like, oh, I didn't know, you know, I didn't know that. So yes, that's where it is.
All right, Jethro, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Felicity and Brittany nailed it in that your passion is infectious. This project, what's great about it is it's at the cross section of Me Too and Black Lives. So it's a super timely story that I think there's a real hunger for. And so I think to their points, I would like to hear a little bit more from you from the start, and your way into this story, and maybe, you know, maybe making that clear about how timely it is. Some succinct way to make that super clear, and then just maybe the pitch itself, I think, could be slightly more succinct in the way that it's communicated. Okay. So that, but also you actually did. I was trying to write because you were speaking so quickly as well. So I think you may have hit a lot of the points in there. So it might be both more succinct and slowing down at the same time so that I can take it all in.
Look, Jethro, you're the third person that told me I need to slow it down. And you know how it is when we're looking at that 90 seconds and I'm trying to make sure I get it all in. So yes, I would take that.
But it worked. I got goosebumps.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with what everybody's saying. I think to kind of continue with what Jethro was saying from a story perspective, my eyes popped open when I was like, oh, this is cool. We're going to be kind of going back and forth from current day to the past and seeing how they're connected. That part was really interesting from a story perspective, but I didn't know who I was going to follow in the past, not as well as I wanted to. And I think one way to slow down, it's not like we want to make your passion lower. You got to keep the passion up. Yes, it might be just the speed at which you say things, but words are helpful in terms of here is where we're going to follow this person, and this person is like this, and she wants that, and where she's going to be doing this. But then from the past, as the tail goes by Felicity's screen, but from the past, we have this person, and that's this person's story, and we're going to follow that person. That would be my only note in terms of the story, relay as far as the pitch itself. It is a tight spot with 90 seconds, so I totally get it.
Yeah, with 90 seconds, so I had to figure out, because in my longer pitches, I definitely have, all of that, the show Bible, all of that stuff, but trying to get that in 90 seconds, and that's why I debated for a minute, like, can I do this pitch challenge with, So yeah, I gotta figure out a way, because that running teaser, it has its own storyline, but it ties thematically into 2017. So in the teaser, just so you guys know, and I tied up, 2 slaves are being torn apart. The female slave is being sold into human trafficking. And at the very end of the teaser, it fast forwards to 2017 to that same plantation where there's a young Black girl that's on the plantation being held captive, being held for human trafficking on that plantation.
Okay.
So each episode thematically would tie from the past into the present to keep the story moving. And also the people in 2017 are the ancestors for the people that are in 1819.
And I assumed that, which is helpful. So that's cool. Yeah. It's great. Thank you, Yolanda.
Thank you. Thank you so much for you guys for the opportunity. I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Great.
Good.
Okay, so this is another video pitch.
Yes.
I'm going to turn it over to Shayna. Have fun.
I lost my virginity to my first boyfriend I met in the back of a silver Lexus. At the time, I thought that shit was magical. Until I went to college and cheated on him with this African guy named Kente, whose penis was so big, I felt it in my stomach. I never told Ahmed that I cheated on him or that his sex sucked. I wanted to write a comedy about sex from a female's perspective. In my head is a 30-minute live-action comedy with animation about a Black woman named Bria Renee who is trying to navigate her own voices in her head. Bria is a 25-year-old writer who deals with anxiety about not being able to express herself. Her main goal? Break up with her boyfriend Tim because of his small penis. But she doesn't know how to tell him. Bria's therapist insists writing a letter to Tim in the pink notebook that she walks around with. But instead, each episode, Bria uses the notebook to go on a sexual voyage with men from all around Los Angeles and then leaving the men personal notes grading their performances in bed. In the end, Bria is more confident about how to express herself. But when she finally decides to break up with Tim, she learns that he had been sleeping with her best friend, which makes Bria relapse with her anxiety, questioning, did it really make a difference to say what was in her head? As women, we should be able to tell our own stories about sex. And as a Black creative dealing with anxiety, I wanted to shine light on the mental impact of not being able to express yourself.
Great. Nice job.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you so much. And, I wanted to write a story about sex because sex is funny. And my husband actually thought that this story was about him, but I had to tell him that it wasn't about him. It was about a really bad experience that I had. And, that bad experience just happened to be with the first person that I had sex with. And this story has really been on my mind for a very long time. And it kind of like snuck up on me in the middle of the night. And I had to write it down. Because not only is sex funny, but I feel as if sex from a female's perspective looks different than from a man. And I think that when women sleep around, they're instantly and constantly called hoes and thoughts, that hoe over there. But when men do it, it's a different story. And one of my family members said something so interesting to me. She was like, you know what, after COVID, I'm gonna do me. And I was like, go ahead, sis, do you, you know? And I didn't judge her. And I feel as if, you know, with the mental impact of everything that's going on, we see that this character deals with anxiety. I wanted to really hone in on the mental health in the Black community, because we really don't see that. And I wanted to bridge the gap between comedy and seriousness. And that's pretty much what the animations do. The animations allow us to dive into this fantasy world, because I think that, you know, we all have animated thoughts. And sometimes we think about doing something that we necessarily can't do because it's not the right thing. So I watch a lot of cartoons with my sons, and I really wanted to kind of bridge the gap with the animation. So I hope everyone liked it, and I hope everyone laughed as much as I did, especially with the eggplants coming down.
Yeah.
I hope you don't show this animation portion to your sons, but I think it's
No.
All right, nice job, Crystal. That was great.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
who
you.
would
Thank
like
you.
to start?
Crystal, that was amazing. I think this is a topic that I'm passionate about also, is female sexuality and how we express this. And then you have the intersection of being a Black woman and the mental health. And a lot of mental health is expressed through sexuality. So there's that. The storyline was very clear. Something I don't think I brought up at all about TV pitching is the engine. And in this, you have the Notebook, and what she does with the Notebook is have sex with different guys and have all this experience. I love it. Question, I guess, are the sex scenes animated or are they live action?
They are both.
Okay.
Animated and live action.
I'm just thinking about COVID, kind of like.
they're
animated now.
Yeah.
I love
it. And how it starts off with the pilot is that she's waiting at the bus stop, and she's looking at these different men, and she's like imagining their penis sizes, because that's something that women, we do.
Yeah.
And she finally sees this guy, this Hispanic guy, and she's like, man, like, I wonder. And then her animated thought is her having sex with him, but then it flips to her goddamn boyfriend, who is just horrible.
Yeah.
So
great job.
That's how it opens. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like I think the thing about animating the sex is that you can have more fun with it, so you can definitely push the comedy if you animate, because I think it's apart from Bridesmaids, which is my favorite thing about the beginning of Bridesmaids, when you watch the bloopers and it's Kirsten Wiig and John Hamm is going bing bong on her boobs. That's like the only funny thing I've ever really seen with people like doing kind of funny sex stuff. So I feel like it's much harder for it to be funny if we're watching it, because it does lots of things to us in our bodies, doesn't it? Sometimes it gets us turned on, sometimes we're horribly embarrassed if our parents are in the room. You know, there's lots of different things we feel. But I had this moment of it where I was like, oh my God, it reminded me of Sex in the City, and like Carrie, and that's it, like being in her head, and like Carrie's a writer, and I hadn't even really made, because it's the second time I've seen this, I hadn't really made the distinction before, but the fact that she's a writer, so we have this ability of seeing her, and as a writer yourself, it means you can by choosing a writer, you can play with language in a way that is so exciting. And that like fills me with, that's my goosebump moment, because I love language. I love how we express ourselves. And then adding that all this thing is that everything about this is expression. Sex is an expression of ourselves in a certain way, our femininity, our ability to feel confident, but so much. And women, we're not allowed to like sex. And you're right, and we call each other loads of very difficult names about it. And women need to be kinder to each other around it, let alone let's even start on the men. And the fact that you have a best friend who's also been betraying her and what that does to her. So I feel like the picture's really clear. It's a really great story. And I love that you then came in at the end, explained about your husband, made everyone feel kind of safe, that you weren't kind of judging their penis. There will be some men in the room going,
Right.
So if you kind of get to that place. So, you know, it was a lovely experience. Well done.
Thank you. And I just wanted to add to what you said, Felicity, just from sharing this pitch and sharing this idea, it has opened up a dialogue between men and women on, are you fulfilling me sexually? You know, and I think that that's not really a dialogue that we have yet to see. You know, it's kind of like, okay, we'll talk about it one-on-one, or maybe we won't even talk about it. But as I'm continuing to just hone this idea in, it's opening up that dialogue, which I'm very, very, very impressed with.
Great. Jethro.
This is a great pitch. Am I on? Yeah. It's funny. It's provocative. It's deep. It's poignant and timely. And I think that the video portion does what you need it to do, as in that can stand alone. Your narration is really good, and the excitement in your narration comes across, I think, well. You tell your story, you get a good sense of what it is, and I think it's the kind of project that could sell at this time. So there's a lot going for it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I want to read it. Are you repped, and can you send it to us? Honestly, I was immediately hooked when the mental health portion came up, because then I was going along the lines of what you were saying, Felicity, like, yeah, this is like a more realistic Sex and the City. But then I had this semblance of like that old Dream On show from HBO from years back, like the 90s, where this guy would have little visuals in his head of his reaction to real life. But this seems like a more interesting version of that. So I would love to read this.
Thank you. Definitely. I could definitely send that. I am not repped, but the script is finished.
Right.
Yes.
Cool. Bravo. Very well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. Thank you for just welcoming this story about this Black woman, and it's just so timely right now. So I just wanted to say thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Crystal, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody who was on tonight watching. Thanks to all the people who pitched the panel. Thank you so much, Jethro, Brittany, Felicity, Shayna behind the scenes, Jaren, Amy, Krista, Scott, everybody who's with the ISA. This was fantastic. We love these pitch events. We're gonna do more of them. Stand by. I don't know when yet, but hopefully before the end of the year, we will do another pitch challenge and we will do another pitch event. They're a lot of fun for us, and hopefully you too. So I don't know if you want to say a little quick wrap up, Max.
A huge thank you to Brittany and Jethro for spending this much time with us. I know it's difficult because our days are filled with these Zoom meetings. And even though it's later in the day, you know, the meetings may not be happening. So really, we do appreciate you taking the time here, and excellent, amazing notes. And I know all the writers listening got a lot out of it. Felicity, I'm not necessarily not including you in that. It's just I already know that you do this on a daily basis, and you're really, really good at it. So bravo to everybody, and thank you for being here. Molly, Shayna, and Craig, I don't think he's with us right now, but these events are going on a regular basis, everybody, so you should be paying attention to the events page on the ISA page. I have a free class for Connect members once a month. We're doing it again this coming Wednesday, next Wednesday. So if you're a Connect member, you can get that, and we're going to be talking about character development. But I think that's about it.
Yeah. I'll jump in. I want to say thank you guys, but also to all the winners. We'll be reaching out. We're going to read all your scripts, as Max was wanting to read it too, but we can't wait. So congrats, guys.